Well, today we're going to dive into the culinary world, springboarding off of Elena's cover story for today about female restaurateurs. We're so pleased to welcome Jessie Ziff Cool, a pioneering restaurateur in this area, founder of Late for the Train, which has since closed, Flea St Café, Cool Café at Cantor Arts, Oysterette. There's a lot there and a lot of history that you've contributed to this area. Also cookbook author, columnist, and an originator really of the idea of organic food here in the restaurant area in the Bay Area. I know you're a proponent of all these things, sustainable, locally sourced, but I also know that it wasn't easy when you first advocated for those kind of principles and philosophies. Your family was in food back in the East Coast. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your origins.
So it's interesting, thank you for having me. It's interesting hearing that word pioneer because I don't see it that way. I see it as just growing food, harvesting it, and cooking in a very old-fashioned way. Mm-hmm. And I always thought that what was a part of my business, which became restaurants, was just doing the way it was supposed to be done. And back in the mid-'70s, being a hippie and buying food from co-ops, that still resonated what I was taught as a kid in Western Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. Of knowing where your food comes from, how the animals are treated, what seeds are used, eat the whole thing, and there's no turning back, I think, once you really know that. So for me, it was just a natural spillover. I got here via hitchhiking and through Canada, and the person who I rode with in Vancouver and got me here, we'll cut it really short, was from Palo Alto, a computer programmer. So as my kids often say, thank goodness we didn't arrive in the middle of Nebraska, Mom, but we arrived in Palo Alto, California. And cooked my way through the country, was a Good Earth waitress and embroiderer, couldn't make enough money as a single parent. Mm-hmm. Met Bob Cool at the Good Earth, which was a natural food restaurant, and
was in downtown Palo Alto, right?
That was in downtown.
Big corner space.
Yeah, I think. What's the burger place that's there now?
Wahlburgers.
Wahlburgers. It was Sam Shadow's, but it was a really cool natural food restaurant that was. And I met Bob Cool, who was opening a steakhouse, and I said I cook natural organic food, and we ate it, and we wanted to be a little more pure than the Good Earth, and we opened Late for the Train.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
What was the natural food movement about then?
So you couldn't talk about it. You couldn't use the word organic. You couldn't put it on the menu. People made fun of us, ridiculed us. And so for me, a lot of food came from organic. Mine was more clean food, that food should have no artificial anything in it. And I know you know one of the core values of the company is the customer comes last. And by that we mean from the beginning we make sure that, you know, the water, the soil, the people who are growing and harvesting our food, our staff, everybody is not going to eat something that might someday hurt them. Even though they said methyl bromide on strawberries dissipated, then years later they proved that it wasn't healthy. So for me, I wasn't willing to take the chance, and I knew that food should just be food.
You mentioned that you had farms in East Palo Alto.
Yes.
Was that in the 70s?
So in the 70s, we were composting. People used to come to our walk-in and pick up because part of sustainability, real sustainability from beginning to end, is you make use of everything. Mm-hmm. Part of our success is that we didn't waste. So we composted, we grew food. Way back then, there used to be land in East Palo Alto, so one of our servers, Wendy Kripnick, would grow 3 acres and then harvest it and then wait tables. And we had gardens everywhere. We had the garden at Flea Street, which Flea Street turns 38 in August, was always there. It's gone through many changes. It's much bigger now, but yes, we've always had food close by. Not only to inspire, besides we use a lot of farms, of course, we couldn't grow that much, but also to get cooks out there and feeling and smelling and connecting is a whole different connection to why you want to do that.
Is that happening more often now that restaurants will be growing food right outside of their doors? Are you seeing that, or is that still unusual?
I think there's more and more. You know, I am an elder now, so after over 42 years, when no one was doing it, when we had to hire these two women way back then who would go to the market and get us whatever local, organic, clean food they could. We would ship it in. Now, first of all, you can get everything. Secondly, there's this great honor to a community that grows its own food. Pescadero and Watsonville, we want that food. And kitchens, I think, in order to do what we do their best to at least grow herbs or citrus. Some do a little, some do more. It's very hard, though, because as we know, farming and growing is not easy. So to blend that with the stress and demands of a kitchen, or to have someone who really understands how to grow food for the kitchen door, from the garden to the kitchen door, is much more complex than you would think. So.
I think it is unusual just to have the space to have a garden by your restaurant. Like I think a lot of restaurateurs would love to do that, but they just don't have the space. But that the sensibilities of going to a farm or a farmer or the farmer's market to get that. I mean, it might not be in their back door in their own stuff that they're growing, but the same sensibility for sure.
I think that's the new definition of gourmet. It used to be gourmet, was shipping things from other places or preserved or, you know, the fanciest thing you could get. Now it is, where does it come from? Who's growing it? How does it taste? It doesn't have to be perfect anymore, which we didn't care. We thought if the bugs were eating it, it was ready to pick. It was the right time to eat that, peel it and cook it. I think there's that the new generation truly embraces it, which is really, I'm so glad I'm allowed to see it. It's pretty cool.
So we've talked sort of about your early experiences as a woman in male-dominated restaurants, and you actually talked about feeling like, you know, you couldn't sort of expose weakness, you couldn't talk about your well-being, physical, mental well-being, otherwise to the point where you said you actually got pretty sick because you just didn't want to sort of express anything in the kitchen because you wanted to be a professional, and but how much of that was tied to sort of being a woman and not wanting to, or feeling like you needed to prove yourself in the kitchen?
I think most of my career, because there was very little support, plus there was very little support down here. Living in the Bay Area was like living in Idaho. Wasn't in Berkeley with those cool women, wasn't in Sonoma, wasn't in San Francisco, where they were at least talking to each other. And there were some amazing women back then who were really supporting one another. There was nobody down here. And so even if I felt like I was doing something that was ethical, right, if it was not from the classic trained European model, I did not go to cooking school. Being a woman and a mama, I knew that there were some women then who started working with me, but we were mamas in the kitchen. The guys could always walk in and very easily intimidate. And even though I was the owner, I didn't know how to deal with that because I didn't have anybody to talk to, let alone cooking organic food. It was so off the radar. So I think being a woman, I didn't know that I was being disrespected, and that's the word I would use. I didn't understand what that meant. I'm sure if somebody had physically gone at me or touched me, I would have asked for help. I wouldn't have been afraid to do that because I've known that in my life. But I think it was more respectful and verbal. And I literally, the only thing I ever asked for help was, because I'm 5'3", was if I couldn't reach something. Nothing else. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm a woman. Couldn't say I had my period. Couldn't say I was tired. Couldn't talk about being a single parent. To the point where I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. People would say to me, "You've got to stop." I remember one moment late to the train, I poured a whole pot of black coffee on myself, boiling. I went in the bathroom and they couldn't get me out because I forgot about this. I didn't want to admit that I had burned myself. And I think I actually probably did it to myself to stop because I didn't know how else to stop. So as far as it being a woman, all of us, men and women, and I never felt like I sided with women. I felt like a peopleist. But when I look back, there was a lot of disrespect. It wouldn't happen now. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Are there any things that you tell women today who are coming up in the industry in terms of how to take care of themselves, in terms of kind of how to navigate kitchens and kitchen culture, that you think, wow, if someone had told me that back then, that could have really changed the experience that I had?
You know, I think of it differently. Again, the customer comes last. I think of it more that I have to make sure my whole staff is not threatening, or they don't get away with things. So if they don't get away with things, then all people, small, I've had some fabulous female impersonators and all kinds of people working with us, that if they're all respected, that doesn't happen as much. So in the midst of that, I think when you set an environment that people are treated fairly and equally, and that they can speak up, even if it's not directly to me, you must tell a manager, then it doesn't happen as much. So the women know they're safe, they love working there. The men treat them well. If one of them doesn't treat them well, another one will step in and say, no, that is not okay. So I think what they learn more is that they as leaders someday don't have to fight, but they have to make sure that they're in environments where it's I keep using the word respectful, but mutually respectful. And they get that, and it's beautiful.
And they can set the tone themselves.
They do, too. Yeah. And they have no problem saying something to someone, to another woman, another man, of saying, don't talk to me now. Instead of having to get angry or having to use power or having to use arrogance, they know how to communicate well. And they're not afraid of that. It's beautiful. There's so much more fun in a brutal business, and so much more love, and so much more focus on the food and good hard work, because they're all doing that. But it seems to work.
When we met, actually, I do remember your former pastry chef, Danielle, saying, and she just started working there a few months before, but she said she felt a distinctly different culture at Flea St, and thought that came from you and your values, and but also being a woman. And she had said she had only worked at male-run kitchens before, and she felt like also it was just more collaborative, like the relationship between pastry and savory. And I think that comes from you as a person, not necessarily as a woman. That's your philosophy.
So because I'm fair, I give that credit to Charlie Parker, this young kid who is, well, he wouldn't let me call him a kid, but who started eating at Flea St, you know, the whole story, at the age of 12, and went off and cooked at Michelin-star restaurants and came back. And he's a good collaborator. So that's why I don't think it's just men or women. He is so good at asking for exactly what he wants. His standards are his standards. He probably has more confidence than I did. Has more tools than I did. I had to go through passive-aggressive, indirect, direct. I mean, I hate to use the word bitch, but being the bitch, I had to go through all of it to learn how to be as collaborative as he is. So the way he works with everyone, he brings them up to their best. They love working with each other. He loves women in the kitchen for many reasons. He thinks it's a balance. He thinks they're focused. So having him come into my kitchen meant that I also had this incredible guy who was a good collaborator.
One issue I wanted to ask you about was media portrayals of women in restaurants. When I started reporting for this story, I did think it would be more about, you know, the issues that women face in restaurants, which are all valid and exist, you know, balancing motherhood and sexual harassment and discrimination. But one of the pastry chefs I interviewed, Serena Chow from Bird Dog, expressed to me that she used the word weary of being asked the question of, you know, like, what is it like to be a woman in a restaurant? And that really resonated with me. And we talked a lot about just feeling like, or she and other chefs who I talked to after her, feeling like, you know, women are paid attention to for certain stories. Like right now, it's the Me Too movement, and those again are all valid stories that need to be told. There's important change that needs to be made in that arena, but less coverage of women as professionals, as career chefs, as women with visions for their restaurants, or you know, whatever it may be. Is that something that you've experienced? You feel like women are portrayed sort of unfairly or selectively in media?
I think when you go through any transition of awareness, that right now it's you know, the tech industry started this with the glass ceiling, so they started the awareness of women, but women in the culinary world got no attention. And so now that the Me Too movement is just spreading everywhere, women are getting more of that attention, which is fantastic. But back to being more of a humanist, I think it is what she was talking about. It's, please don't talk about why I'm different. Right. Please don't point out my why you see me as small or gay or female or whatever. Look what I do. Look at my talent. Look at the way I produce. Look at how good I am at this. And I would say that for anyone coming in. to be able to be acknowledged for that first. So maybe the first of it is stop the prejudice, stop the injustice, and what she's saying is now look at who I am and what I do, and I think more of that is happening. Certainly, when I started, I had about as many things against me, except the food was good. It was always about the food. I mean, it was, it wasn't perfect. I often say, all of you out there who had a bad meal, I am so sorry. All of you who were taken care of the way that you should have been, I am so sorry. Because it happens. Yeah. But to pick yourself up and go for that perfection, which she is, means don't look at me just as a woman, please. It's not fair.
I'm kind of curious, so since you've been here for many decades, and when you started, you felt like, okay, the centers were, there were other women chefs from Berkeley and San Francisco, and this is kind of the outpost down here. Have you seen things change significantly, such that the kind of the environment, the culinary environment, is different down here? There's more opportunities. Just how do you feel about what you're seeing these days here on the peninsula?
I think it's exciting. I think that it was always surprising. People would say, why aren't there more restaurants like Flea St? And my answer was, I don't know. And by Flea St, it meant, connected to the food, driving to the farms. I mean, I've been going to Pescadero to get goat cheese from D. Harley for 25 years. And that happened more up there. And I don't really know why it didn't happen down here, except it's hard. When you're in a kitchen, you want it brought to you. We want 1 or 2 trucks. So if you're really curious and invested in food and people and production, then you make time for that. And I think more people realize that this population does not always want to go to the city or go to Berkeley, that they would like to not drive 45 minutes or so, and there's great opportunity. And I'm really excited because that means I get to eat in more restaurants, because I like to eat out and drink in good bars. So I welcome the fact that there are more people coming down here and finding opportunity. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah. I know that we were just talking about how some women are weary of talking about some of the female issues, but I did want to touch upon parental leave, because that's been brought up as kind of a, not just in the culinary world, but just all over the kind of a barrier for women succeeding at the same pace as men. Are you seeing any changes in how restaurants are offering parental leave, men and women, to enable success kind of over the long term?
So the thing about the restaurant world is we are kind of misfits. We work at night. That's why a lot of people get involved in alcohol and drugs. Quite honestly, they finish work at 11 or 12. You have to wind down, figure out how to get up and have a normal day and exercise and do all the things. And weekends, people used to say to me, I'd be in a class or something and say, it's Friday. And my reaction would be, it's Friday. My kids are going to be home, and oh my God, I've got all this to do. I think that those of us that are really considering a good life, even in the food world, are trying to figure out how to make a business that has a profit margin, if we're lucky, we're doing really well if it's 8% in the kind of restaurants I run, where you pay people well and you buy good food. We're trying to figure out how to create healthy environments so we are not all misfits and we can fit a little bit. Charlie's a single parent, so we close Sundays. So he has Sunday and Monday off, and Sunday was one of our busiest days. I mean, not only labor force, but it was like a Sundance. Where the guy jumped off the cliff and held his nose, and you hope you're going to land somewhere. Closing for Sunday was one of our busier days. And in retrospect, 4 months later, we're figuring out how to do it the other way, and we're giving everybody time to be with their family. And I wish I had had that. So my job as an elder is to figure out, oh my goodness, I never felt like I was a good enough mother, ever. I never felt like I was a good enough restaurant owner, ever. I was failing all the time, even though people were saying, oh, it's so good. I was like, and my kids are awesome. So for us now in this business, to not just take care of our guests, but to realize we have to take care of these families who are cooking and these kids is, I'm hoping, something we're more aware of. I don't know for sure. I know we are in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I think as younger chefs become owners or open up their own places, I think, and they're coming up sort of in that world where maybe that should be more of a given than it was when you were starting. I think we might see that culture sort of start to really shift.
I think it will, but remember, people eat out at night, and children study
true.
and go to
Right,
bed at
the
night.
hours will never change.
So
but-
the hours are the same, and then a compassion, understanding for what I remember when everyone would say, if I wasn't there, it wasn't as good, and I thought, really, it's you have to give me a break, and to realize that is a part of our life too, and be understanding and forgiving, so we can forgive ourselves, and there are more families who are doing it. My kids are adults, and they show where they took naps under tablecloths. And I have a great picture of my baby with me behind the bar. But they also learn to work with us, which is a good thing. So it doesn't have to be completely separate.
Yeah.
The fact that these kids are in a place where they watch cooking, they watch a parent being good to staff, they speak a different language, all of that can be really good too. So I think a blending and respect of both is what we're trying to do with Charlie right now. Find him a good place to be a single dad.
So what are you up to these days? What are you about now? I mean, at this stage of your career.
So I'm cooking more at home. I'm back in my garden. We're really trying to help me. I call it semi-regenerate because I hate the word retire because that sounds like lying down, not willing to surrender. I like to ride a bike, so I like to cycle up in the hills more. I want to hike in national parks more. I bought a new Subaru so I can travel and see friends. So for me, it is balancing work more what we're talking about in a way after all these years. And the staff are so kind and respectful to me. It means a lot to feel like an elder, but also feel like they want to protect me a little bit. At my age and give me some time to do all this. It makes me emotional because it's happening. So I'm doing that. I'm cooking at home. I'm being with friends more. I'm still in the restaurant. I still have my one martini at night, so you will see me at the bar.
And you guys added the oysterette outside.
It
recently,
opens May
right?
13th.
Okay, good.
And
we
we
outdoor patio.
we even
casual
upgraded our
menu.
electrical, so we're going to Charlie's going to make corn fritters. He's going to have some really cool food out there.
And this is
Very
at Flea
casual.
Street.
Flea
Yeah,
Street.
sorry.
In the front deck, it's called the Oysterette, so it's oysters and very light, just a little more casual.
Yeah.
The Flea Street's the queen. That's more like a little princess. You can have a
good way of
little
describing it.
funkier out there. So for me, I'm loving mentoring some women, or people who are starting out in the business, and if I can make it easier for them, that would be really rewarding. And teaching my grandchildren get up off the couch and learn how to cook this, so they too know how to cook. And I kind of want to be open to what's next. I spent the last year pulling back from all boards, pulling back from all nonprofits, cleaning my whole being out, and now beginning to pick up again what is it that means something to me in this community. Finding I'm becoming more local. I was very local, stretched, very global, and now I'm finding myself wanting to be a little closer to home again.
Well, it sounds like a turning point, maybe a time for renewal and relaunching.
Yeah. I'm loving working with these young people in the kitchen. They are different. They are more excited and connected. And I mean, I'm so open to learning from them. I traded foie gras with Charlie for a sous vide machine, which was a huge thing for me to do sous vide, but I understand it because it is the best way to cook pastured meat, proteins, aging, and I had to learn. But so I'm learning so much from these young kids too that I'm excited about being inspired in a different way, and not just about food.
It's been wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Enjoy this conversation.
Thank you for keeping this way of spreading the news of our community alive. It's important.
Okay.
Really important.
Well, Jessie Ziff Cool, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That wraps it up for this week's Behind the Headlines. You can always find us online at paloaltoonline.com. Elena has a food blog called Peninsula Foodist, so go to paloaltoonline.com/blogs, and you can find all the latest on openings, closings, and the whole restaurant scene. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and check out our food photos on Instagram. We'll see you next week.